It's no secret that I take quite a bit of inspiration from Drew Durnall with these videos, and in the spirit of his old content, I took Great Britain and replaced it with Japan. And I didn't change religions or anything like that. I just switched them places and I gave England's provinces over here to Ashikaga. So we should see a colonial empire for Great Britain as we normally would. Now it just might be in a different spot. And to be honest, it's probably impossible to predict how things are going to look in Europe. So I guess we're just going to have to load in, put it up to speed 5 and find out. The first war of the run here between Ashikaga and Castile over their tributary state of Navarra. Looks like Castile doesn't take too kindly to people setting up their neighbors as a tributary states. But looking at the numbers here, I don't see why they would do that, because they're about to get absolutely dumpstered, assuming that, you know, the Japanese can actually land men over here. Ashikaga's got a lot of men because they have all the mainland provinces from England, but they're going to need to land troops anywhere else, because the only way to get to these islands is a straight up here off the coast of Norway. Same with over here off the coast of Ireland. There is a straight over into Korea, but that's it. That's the only thing that's different. Well, aside from, you know, the location of the land masses, that's obviously different. England is making some moves. They've subjugated 2 people and they've taken 1 province here in Ireland, but not a whole lot going on the British Isles aside from that. And it's a good thing that they pieced out, because Japan was getting their cheeks clapped. They ended up losing Navarra, but that's it. They didn't lose anything else other than that. So that's good. Now I'm kind of thinking, like, if France were to take this land from Ashikaga, it wouldn't actually be that bad, because then they could just focus on the island and uniting the island, right? Kind of like Britain or England. So it may not be a bad thing if they end up getting dominated here on the coastal lands. Now there's some action going on the continent here. It looks like Ashikaga has attacked Brittany just now. So they're going to hopefully be taking some land over there if we're lucky. Otherwise, France has attacked Burgundy, but Burgundy has called in their ally of Aragon, and it looks kind of bad for France. Meanwhile, the War of the Roses rages on the British Isles with no end in sight. But at the end of the day, does it really matter? Probably not. Damn. France got gangbanged. They just lost a ton of land down here to Burgundy. So it's probably over for them, which sounds kind of weird to say considering how truly strong they are this patch. But it looks like the balance of power is shifting away from France, within France. And now it's Ashikaga's turn to put the hammer down on the French. I definitely think they're done. England continues their consolidation of the Isles, but right across from them, the Ming, looking very bad, which is going to be pretty good for them, considering the fact that a weak Ming means they have more expansion routes available to them. So, something to think about. We also have a ducal Prussia over here, right next to the Teutonic Order inside of Prussia, of course. And the Ottomans are being held at bay currently. We're about 15 years into the game, and no major changes except for pushing a little bit down here. They have won one war against the Mamluks, but the Venetian Balkans is a thing, so maybe they will kind of curb their enthusiasm for expansion. Hard to say. We've got a couple of provinces up here in Hokkaido, 2 for Denmark and 1 for Norway. So it looks like that we have an invasion of the Northmen, only this time in Hokkaido. So something happened, and I don't really know how exactly this works, but Flanders is actually a daimyo. They're a subject. They're very disloyal and they hate Ashikaga, but they are indeed a daimyo of Ashikaga. Okay. I love this though. So Japan is united, and you're going to see a couple of provinces up in the north that are occupied with some yellow lines. That's because Japan attacked Castile for conquest. So yeah, that's a thing. Japan is doing very good, uniting their lands up in France and now apparently pushing down into Iberia, though we'll see how that one goes. Meanwhile, the Ottomans are just losing to Venice, but okay, they're pushing though. They're pushing across the Caucasus, and they're all the way down into Basra. So they're just migrating by the looks of it, because they're probably going to get pushed out of the Balkans pretty soon. Meanwhile, Great Britain has formed, and they have a subject of Thomond over here, and that's it. They haven't done anything. They haven't gone to war with Korea. They haven't gone to war with later Jin, which has formed. I don't know what this is, but they haven't done anything. They have just been sitting here and deving, I guess. They have, however, gone exploration ideas after admin quality. So it looks like they're probably going to do some colonization. And if I had to guess, they're going to colonize the closest stuff. So, you know, Polynesia down into the Spice Islands, Philippines, Indonesia, that sort of area, maybe down under. but maybe we'll see them over here on the left coast. Normally it's Spain and or Portugal, but a British left coast would be pretty cool to see. And speaking of colonization, we've got Portugal down in the south, and then Castile up here in the Caribbean. And aside from that, it's just Norway. That's it. So Aragon is a grand republic. Specifically, they are a peasants' republic, because I knew they could do that in this patch now, but I didn't know the AI would do it in this patch. So not only are they not part of the Iberian Union, they are a peasants' republic. That's awesome. Meanwhile, the Commonwealth is doing quite well with over 1,000 development, but they're currently getting gangbanged by Muscovy and the Ottomans. So maybe they're not doing so well. Turns out Great Britain does have a little bit of dog in him. He actually took over all of Korea, pushing well into Manchuria up the coast there, and they even have Beijing under their belt. So no opium wars this time around, because they actually just went in and took the land themselves. Of course, yes, there is a massive Russia here that is very, very scary, considering that it's like 1580 right now. So Russia having a good game. Ottomans doing okay despite getting beat up on a little bit by Venice, somehow able to just hook around Persia, but now they're fighting with Russia for Persia. So this is a very strange timeline. Meanwhile, over in Europe, of course, about what you would expect, Japan continues to conquest, but Burgundy, the underdog of the run, doing well, doing very well. Lost a couple of provinces here and there to Japan, but overall, they're still blobbing into the HRE even. They're pushing into the HRE pretty strong. So yeah, I think they're doing pretty good, especially considering that Austria, the former emperor, is gone. There's like one province left. I think they're actually one province. Of course, it does help that Japan is allied to Sweden, who they did help in their independence war. I think that's how they got these islands, I think. I'm pretty sure that's how it happened. And then they're also allied to the Commonwealth, who controls most of Hungary and then all of northern Germany over here as well. So pretty impressive looking alliance network and borders for Japan. Now, as far as the colonial game goes, it looks like Britain focused primarily on Australia over here, and then over in South Africa, because they don't want to have to compete with the Boers. So they figured if they got there first, they didn't have to deal with the Boer Wars. And despite Russia doing incredibly well, it looks like the hammer is being dropped on them. They are being split essentially down the middle by Sweden and the Commonwealth on the left, and Great Britain invading for Manchurian lands on the right. So not looking too good for them. And we have a couple more formables. Italy, not by Venice, but by Tuscany, and then Lotharingia has formed. And I think this is like the second time I have ever seen an AI Lotharingia form. So I am here for it. Also, the Netherlands is a subject of Japan, a tributary specifically, and Japan also has Japanese Canada. I don't know how, but they got it. I assume they took it from Norway, if I had to guess. But yeah, that is a thing right next to Nova Hollandia. So lots of interesting colonial stuff going on over here. The rest is just Portugal. And of course, Castile takes over the left coast and Mexico. And then Portugal gets the entirety of South America. Britain doing the majority of their focus on Australia and over here in Australia. Because I don't think Britain has had a lot of time to spare since they've been doing so much war over here in the Far East, pushing into China as well as well into Siberia. So they're doing pretty good over here. Good enough to get them into the #1 spot, if you can believe that, in front of Russia, the Commonwealth, the Ottomans as well, though the Ottomans will take over once they embrace the institution. Regardless, the 5th spot is Castile, with Portugal in the 6th, those colonial nations, no surprise at all. But Japan still in the top 8. I actually figured they would be higher, but they are only in the 7th spot, and then 8th is Lotharingia. So some interesting tag formations, some interesting great power dynamics. I'm really curious to see how it ends up. 1821 and Great Britain definitely finishes the preeminent power of the region. Not really super surprising considering the fact that they were basically left in splendid isolation for many, many years, but very nice borders, to be honest, for the AI. So I'm pretty cool with this. But not so nice borders over here in Russia, with the Ottomans cutting them straight up the middle and splitting it between the Commonwealth and, of course, Great Britain, and apparently this Dzungar nation over here, which I'm pretty sure is just like a random horde releasable. So that's the thing. Ottomans also continuing to push well into Egypt, down into Nubia, but stopping at Somalia because they can't take them on probably. Castile and Britain down in the south, with Kilwa getting exiled almost exclusively over to Madagascar, which is always funny to see. Sub-Saharan Africa mostly split between Portugal and Castile, Castile never really did much. They ended up getting bopped by Japan early on, and they basically just stagnated after that. But Japan did not stagnate. They kept on going, taking over the majority of the development over in Scandinavia, down into Denmark, northern Germany, and basically just taking all of the sea from Lotharingia. Tuscan Italy also did quite well. For a second, I thought that this Tunisia was actually Italian, but it's Ottoman. But they did pretty good. They also pushed well up past Switzerland into southern Germany. So that's a bit of expansion for them. Japanese New World and Castilian New World, that's essentially what the entire North American continent looks like. And in the south, again, it is all Portugal except for Brazil. Brazil is independent and also allied to Great Britain. So not really surprising that they're allowed to stay independent. The Church of England was never founded with Catholicism taking up the majority of the development of China as well as Manchuria and of course the British Isles. And Shinto remains dominant over here in France and of course Japan, but Scandinavia, very Shinto. And it's a different story for Catholics over here, pushed mostly out of Iberia and exclusively contained over here in Italy, with Reformed in Lotharingia and Protestantism in the rest, though I think Reformed is also pretty strong over here in Bohemia as well. And a bunch of Orthodox provinces left, but only a couple of nations that actually follow it. South America, all Catholic. North America, mostly Catholic, but there is some Shinto, so it looks like the subject nations were converted at some point. But I do really like the name Empire of Japan. I think that there's actually a couple of cosmetic names that they can get in this new patch with Domination, which I think is pretty cool. I think I probably would have said it in the intro, but I made this map mod myself. But I am really curious if you guys have some cool mods that you've made or you would like to share, or mods that you just think would be really cool for videos on the channel. Make sure you let us know about them in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you like it, of course, and subscribe for plenty more content to come. Special thanks to ALS Gamer, Legrand Puba, Chio, Josh Kopczynski, Adrian Rhino, Blonde Damon, Cannon Fodder, and many more. If you want to see your name here and early access to these videos, check out the join button below the video or the Patreon linked in the description.